giant socio-political public art done with thousands of kids, and bio art and deep listening. It's all stuff that inspired me, and I've studied and sort of tried to do my own weird way. I spent a week with John Cage. What a trip, you know, what a cool dude. He changed my life as a kid, you know, I was in my 20s. I know my work isn't like him, but sort of is, because he changed my life. The journey. Yeah, I'm just going to start showing some more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is
that's cool. I build machines and robots, and sometimes I turn them into games and make elaborate systems so you can get a beer, maybe. I was super into pyrotechnics for a long time. They're building a museum in New Mexico. Before they finished it, they let me do a show. And I had the museum director run a flamethrower. He was so freaked out. Some of the work's about fear and play, and maybe using military-grade technology for us, not for them, for us. And kind of flipping it. And can you do poetry with that, or magic, or spiritual work? And then let the people run the stuff. Like, I'm not trying not to ever run or operate my machines and robots. So this is all people and stuff. Extensions of the body, kind of augmenting humans. So he's moving his head and it triggers those arms. Hybrid systems, some fear and play. A lot of it's, for me, conducting experiments on humans and seeing what I can get humans to do with technology. This is an electroencephalograph on a woman's head, and her brain thoughts are triggering this robot. Built that at the Spelletich a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. See if the thing would help you. So what are we trying to do? Give people real life experiences, nothing digital, nothing passive. It's not fake. It can hurt you, maybe. And to me, that's empowering people and celebrating life, like real life. Not, I love an intellectual, quiet life, but also like a life that moves and is active. I got asked to do a self-portrait, so I built a robot of myself. And the guy on the left's running a voodoo doll of me. I had a lot of help and collaborate with a lot of people to build this stuff. My buddy works for Lucasfilm, so he made the mask of my face. And had a lot of help from electrical engineers. People thought they were maybe going to be mad scientists. And maybe I get to be the mad scientist through them. So this interactive process I'm into, to me, is sort of for me a roundabout political gesture. And I often think, how do we change the planet? And how do we get off the track we're on? And that's getting people to do stuff. It's not, there's a camera in my head. It's not a passive thing that's going to change the planet. Donating stuff is great, but change is change. And so, to me, real change doesn't happen until people engage and kind of take initiative. And part of the bummer for me with art, so much art, is the reason it's in the museums because it's worth money. So they got guards, and then you can't go near the art, right? They protect it. And how do you break that down? how do you make art that it takes 3 people to get a little glass of wine? And they're Germans. No, they're actually Austrians. They're better Germans. And how do I do that with a different culture? They don't play much in Eastern Europe, or sort of stoic in a beautiful way. And so how can I break that down when I get gigs in Europe? Monkey on your back. I used to do tons of drugs and drink a lot. I gotta get this off my back, man. It's classic. I'm really messing up. I'll build a robot. So her heartbeat's running in the tail, and there's flex sensors in the glove that operate with 2 hands, and her tilt sensors, these little arms that can thump you on the chest, grope you. So like weird fun and play and interactivity. My buddy Jonathan Foote is a super genius electrical engineer, helped me with all the custom electronics. I go, John, what are you working on? I just working on stupid stuff in a cubicle. I just really look forward to coming here after work. Being in my workshop. It's such a shame that the real visionaries, someone like John Foote or Silicon Valley, kind of quashes out people's dreams, and then they go after money instead. And whatever, they got a bunch of bills. They didn't set it up so they could live cheap. Where am I going with that? Capitalism's a problem, where I'm going with that. And we're embedded in a capitalist system that equates value with money, and probably most of you don't buy that, but for me, a lot of my work's about that, and how do I do an end run around that and realize my life purpose? Like, what would I do if I had $10 million bucks? I got any money. I got $8. I got enough I knew to get back across the bridge. People want to do this. Like, they really do. And I go, okay, who wants to get in the shark cage? And they're like, ah. Why do they want to do it? Like, what's missing in your life that you want to do that? I think a lot's missing in people's life, obviously, right? Life can be really lame. Go to school and you get a job.
Superman flex.
There we go. So for me, the great thing about art and artists is corporations. But you get to follow your dream with art. And you don't get to follow your dream with work or a job. I've taught at a bunch of universities. You don't really get to follow your dream at the universities either. Trust me. I've lectured at like 100 of them. And but you get a little, there's some leeway there. But the great thing about art and artists is, what field would you work at work in a bar at night, so you can do your work on the weekends and on your free time? Or be a carpenter, and then on your free time, you do your real life work. And the jackasses who destroyed the world economy sure aren't working at a bar and then on their free time doing their life work. They're only doing it for money. And that shows like the real power of art. And there's people who spoke before me, like, you'll do it at any cost. And that is an end run around capitalism. We're embedded in the system, but there's a workaround, I guess. I think that's a positive, output that art does, and why it freaks out so many people and politicians. Because they're always like, oh, how much is it worth? Oh, what do you sell it for? Yeah, I got 13 broken down pianos. I thought of Terry Riley, right? I thought of John Cage. Just got a bunch of robots and I'll run them, and 13 people play piano together. They're all sitting outside in the rain. My buddy's piano mover, and he gets junk ones. Dog. I built something for the dog. I literally, man, would catch him chewing on those cow bones sculpture. What's going on here? It's for a festival called the Dark Festival in Cologne. And I got him to turn on the lights for this. But there was no electricity in the exhibit, so I built a hand crank generator that ran these little machines. Wine pouring machine in Prague. Kids drink. They don't have a big problem with that. Very adult. So I kind of think a great part also about art is really like I think Duchamp said the first 40 years are the hardest. And it's, so you might not get paid the first 40 years. So how do you maintain 40 years of life practice without economic support in a system that's all about money? And I decided that we're gifting people, right? Art is a gift. Just the concept of art is a proactive, positive gesture. Yeah, someone stands some flame cannon. Positive thing. And my fish were on a violin. I'm not kidding, man. It's a smart fish. It's an African cichlid. I did a cat one too. I don't think that's in here. I had a cat too. So if you're gifting people for 40 years, the first 40 years are the hardest, they now can do. They've done studies where they prove the most rewarding thing is to give away something. And so if you're giving away art, there's your built-in reward system if you can't get money for it. It's no way to tell it to students. I always write stuff down because I forget my great ideas. A lot of this stuff's from real life. I saw a wildfire, and then me and my buddy ran into it. Wow, I want to build a wildfire. That's my old girlfriend. For me, a lot of the machines, I guess they're sculptures, but I think they kind of look sort of lame when they're not being operated, or when there isn't someone in them. They're kind of nothing to me. But when there's someone in them and they're running, then it's kind of they're realizing their life purpose, and then they're interesting. This was kind of interesting without found this fallen tree that fell down. Turned into a robot. Really great gallery in New York, the Jack Hanley Gallery, and he's giving me tons of shows, and we lose money every show. But we do get into New York Times like every time, and tons of huge fun parties and openings, and that's the other rewards, I guess. And Jack kind of realized that. He's like an old dead-end hippie, great freak, beautiful dude. And lets me do stuff like this. Built a bunch of hot rods out of my shop and demo derby contest. I'm also an avid gardener, so I just get stuff out of my garden. I have a version of hybrid. Those hybrids are really bad for the environment. All those
bigger than me.
rare metals they harvest.
I don't even feel like I have control over it in some
What is
ways
this?
anymore.
Oh, I don't know this.
It's just taking over my life.
This I made business on it. So the only money I made was I became an actor on TV, and I did these fake reality shows. It was awful. I finally quit. But it has on MTV and minor movie bits, all because I was an artist and I made this weird stuff. And I was like, I don't know, I'll try that. Or then he wanted me to move to LA and get an agent. About the same time, the military started offering me like $1 million to build them stuff. They'd come to my shows. Like, you made that? Why'd you make that linkage that way? It has a handshaking machine. I built it for my buddy Steven Wilson, who was a really great pioneer of art and technology in the Bay Area. And we were collaborating right at the end of his life, and we didn't finish it. And so, kind of didn't want to do what we were planning. And he loved the stuff that grabbed you and hugged you. I built these hugging machines. I don't know if those were in there, but I built a handshaking machine for Steve. And then I had asked to be in a show for and about Steve Wilson at SF State last year. So I made that. It's got a, so I need a hand. So I would go around to all my friends and say, hey, how's it going? And, usually I can hug your friends or something. And I'd be like, it's such a trip, because you can't shake your own hand. And I'd sit in my shop like, I always be like, and they're like, what are you doing, Cal? I was like, I built a handshaking machine. That's not weird to my friends. So I made so it has 3 levels of grip. So you can go, do grip. And so, and then I had an EKG on it. And it would decide whether to shake or not, or how much, and how tight to grip, and then when to let go. And there's super great psychology there, where it's like a limp handshake, and so many great things about handshakes. I did a gig in Africa. I should show that footage. And we built these rockets, blasted them across the 2nd largest canyon in the world, with a bunch of locals, and. Yeah, these elaborate, beautiful handshakes. So amazing. The first day I was like, I have to learn this. So anyway, partly is what inspired me to build a handshaking machine. Where am I going with that? A lot of it's real life stuff. That I built all this, and like the spinning machine, I fell back on my chair once, cracked my head, and I was leaning back, and I had bad back from building all this stupid stuff and working construction. And that moment where you fall, and you're like, am I falling? And bam! And such a beautiful moment. The end there, free falling. How build a machine when you free fall? Not sure if it turned into something else, I think. But, where am I going? How we wrap this up? So, my old man owned a construction company, and we just started tearing apart cars in the 70s when I was a kid. And a big inspiration for me is I worked for my pop, and there'd be all these hippie dudes on the carpenter crews, and the plumbers and the electricians, and they'd all be like, oh, this summer, go down to Central America and work with the Sandinistas, and we're going to build them a school. And I was like, 15-year-old brat. I'm like, stupid, or that's weird. And this apprenticeship program that was in the trades back then, really, in hindsight, I can look, and it so changed my life. I learned how to build all this stuff in a way, and those guys were learning the trades, carpentry, plumbing, electricity, concrete work, and then going out on their journey and applying it in ways that weren't about just building a tract house or an apartment, or just doing a remodel job. Not that those are bad either, per se, but there's other applications to working in the trades that I thought, in a way I'm doing that now. It kind of took a long time to figure it out, but I learned all this stuff, and I'm reapplying it to the arts. And, I can go to Africa, and I've done gigs in India and Mexico and blah, 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 and kind of bastardize this medium I've learned and reapply it in different ways. And I had a big part, what I've been trying to do is share the technology I've learned when I do classes, not covered up so people can see it on my machines and robots. So you can see, like, oh, that's how a pulley thing works, And the interactivity part also, I think, resonates that same way, where people can see how like their biosystem is triggering maybe a robotic system, and they can see that immediate feedback. So often I think of like when it's sensor-based work, it responds to the individual. I tried programming a few things. It was so boring as a sequence, as programming. But then when I came up with these different sensor-based pieces, it really did respond to the individual. And each person is a different organism, and so they trigger the pieces different. Like sometimes it just won't work, and you know, like the conductivity of their skin, I'm like, it doesn't work. Next person. And you know, there's kind of, and it's all experiments, so there's no wrong or right in an experiment for me. What else? In the mid-90s, I started studying Eastern philosophy. It took almost 10 years after hanging with Cage before it sunk in my head. But there's one part where they say, show me and I will see, tell me and I will hear, let me do, let me participate, and I will experience and know. And I always think about that right before I build a piece. How do I really communicate with someone and not give them a passive experience? Questions?